Most people would call this totally unnecessary. But there is something weirdly satisfying about pressing old bushings out of a rear diff carrier. I wanted to feel the difference with poly bushings, sure, but really I wanted to sharpen my skills with the press again. And this little project nearly left my car undriveable. So here's what we'll be doing today. Pressing out the factory diff carrier bushings, installing Whiteline replacements, and adding the Perrin driveshaft carrier lockdown and bushings to continue tightening up the drivetrain. And it should be simple, right? But honestly, how often does a simple job stay simple on one of these cars? So here's why I went down this path. I've been running a Cusco rear diff carrier, but curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to know if Whiteline's poly bushings in the OEM carrier would actually feel different on the road. The process is pretty straightforward. Pick the right cup and socket, set up the press, push the old bushings out, grease the new bushings and sleeves, and press them in by hand. But here's the part I genuinely enjoy. When you use the press on real components, you get this hands-on understanding of how everything fits together. It is very satisfying because you are refining the car and your skills at the same time. Everything was going pretty smooth. The Whiteline bushings pressed in beautifully, the carrier was looking great, and then I ran into a little bit of trouble. This sleeve was just slightly too tight for my OEM hardware, which means I'm holding a rear diff carrier that I literally cannot bolt back to the subframe. If this is your only car and you don't have spare hardware lying around, you'd be stuck completely. By the way, if you've ever had a simple job turn into a headache like this, drop it in the comments. Luckily, I had hardware that worked, but it taught me something important. The upgrade path isn't always the smart path, and sometimes curiosity comes with consequences. But hey, we live and we learn, right? While I was already under the car, I decided now would be a good time to install the Perrin driveshaft components that have been sitting in my garage. I've been chasing this tight, direct drivetrain feel, and I wanted to see if these parts would push things a little further. This install isn't anything wild. Heat shield off, driveshaft carrier unbolted, old bushings out. Everything cleaned, greased, and torqued. Simple job, but honestly, this is the kind of simple work that's actually enjoyable. What surprised me the most was how annoying it was to center the driveshaft with these solid offset bushings. You've got to nudge it, adjust it, recheck it until it sits perfectly centered before you torque everything down. If you know of any tips or tricks for getting these bushings centered faster, please let us know down in the comments. I swear this part took longer than the whole install. Both of these parts were about $150 and took me a couple hours to install. And before we forget about that rear diff carrier, once I found hardware that actually fit, everything finally went back together cleanly. Bolts torqued, double checked, and the car's back on the ground. Now comes the real moment. Was any of this actually worth it? Alright guys, I've been testing these mods out now for the past couple of weeks, so let me give you my honest opinion while I hit some of these nice back roads here. First impressions guys, the change is there, but it's pretty subtle. We're talking some pretty tiny gains here. If you guys are running some old and dry rotted bushings on your car, you'll probably notice a bigger improvement than I do. But with everything else that's already been upgraded on this car, at this point, this is really just like some fine tuning. Now, I've been told that these mods are kind of like the cherry on top of your favorite dessert. And I tend to agree with that, actually. It's a nice finishing touch, but not exactly a transformation. And here's the truth, guys. If you haven't taken care of all the big drivetrain related mods that I've done in the past, these Perrin parts are not going to magically transform your car. But if you've taken care of everything else, and you're trying to get that last 5%, these parts will get you there. So guys, here's where I landed. The rear diff carrier experiment, That was pure curiosity, and honestly, more about sharpening my skills than gaining performance. And if you guys are thinking about doing this yourself, I recommend you just pick up a carrier that already has upgraded bushings, just like the Cusco one I was running before this. And as for the Perrin driveshaft lockdown and carrier bushings, they are definitely solid parts, and after you've taken care of all the other drivetrain modifications, these will take care of that final weak point. Did the car change dramatically? No, but it did push the build forward, and after all, that's the whole point of this journey. And speaking of the journey, the drivetrain isn't the only thing that's been feeling a little worn. There's a part of this car that should feel sharp and connected, and right now, it doesn't. And that's what I'm fixing next, so make sure you hit subscribe so you can see that transformation. I'll see you guys in the next one.